It also allows us on the itemization front to give escalating rewards. Coming up with the A word, one of everybody's favorite, attunements and keys. So we learned a lot in Burning Crusade about attunements and keys and what worked and what didn't. Why did they exist? They exist partially to gate the content so that you have to beat previous content to get there. Another reason is oftentimes the attunement is supposed to explain some backstory to why that content is there. I think an example, here's our attunement chart. It's kind of like scary for me to just look at it right here. But we've been sort of removing some of those. Example of what was a good attunement or good keying were the master's key for Karazhan. It's not overly difficult, it's not overly time consuming. It's a pretty good quest, it explains what's going on in the dungeon, and it gates that content. There's no one who is capable of doing Karazhan who can't complete that key quest. I also think our heroic dungeon keys worked out pretty well for the most part. Our main goal behind the heroic dungeon keys was to make sure that you did the dungeon on normal difficulty. For those of you who do pickup groups, I'm really sorry first off, but for those of you who do pickup groups, you know when you're doing a heroic that if somebody is keyed, they've at least been to that dungeon wing before. It's not their first time showing up. Now we can't guarantee that they don't suck. That's not our problem. So the other thing is unlocking content. This is something we want to look for more towards in the future. A lot of Wrath of the Lich King content or upcoming raid content. We want to do things along the lines of the Encourage gate, minus the limit, but the idea that like a server would open the content rather than it being keyed to the individual, we think is pretty cool. Some other ideas that we've been tossing around, we don't have anything firm on this at this point, but the idea that if you could flag a guild, or perhaps you could flag one of the characters on your account and it would open up content such as Karazhan to the other characters on that account. So those are some ideas we're talking about. Okay, they clapped. That means go ahead, guys. Get to work on it. Okay, so I want to talk about the tactically random AI spawn heuristic, which you guys have come to know as trash, everybody's favorite subject. So we've been taking your feedback on this one, and I think I understand what you guys want. So if Lee, you can roll the movie. We've got a movie here. So here it comes, the Molten Core version 2.0, designed by you and everybody else. I read the forums, it's not like I'm not there. Okay, so there's your Warlock suit you're all getting. Alright, here we come. We're coming up to the Twin Major Domo pull. Over the bridge to Onyxia, right there. Careful not to aggro the Brood Lord on the right side. Right there. Little Cromagus. Then you roll into Farian. Don't forget about Ragnaros. He's got a pet though, because he was kind of boring by himself, so you just fight Gluth with him as well. They also all drop 25 items specifically for your class. Then it goes into Patchwork and Scarum. Do you believe that like we sit around and do this for a living? Like that was my day one day at work, was to be, respawning the Molten Core with everybody. Magtheridon, right here. He's an important one. So you gotta like pace it, right? You can't just have all the like marquee bosses right up front. Saffron, one of everybody's favorite. There's like 20 people who got to fight him and they said it was awesome. You gotta fight all these guys at once, like all the bosses out loud. It's such a drag, like you fight one guy, it's like drops 2 items, so we're just fighting them at once. Now for the Warlocks and Mages, we have the A.E. Van Cleef pull right here. It's not trash, it's a boss. No, the Twin Cthulhu's right there. He never did get the other eye up out of the ground, I swear. And then finally, of course, this is designed by you guys. We've been listening. Then you roll right into, there's the big bad boy right there. talking about what is the purpose of trash? It's a pacing mechanism, first and foremost. Believe it or not, if the dungeon were just all bosses, it would sort of lose its appeal. It also lets classes shine. There's a lot of stuff that bosses, we simply can't let work on bosses. Good example would be letting a boss be stun locked. We have to do a lot of design work on a boss to allow for stuns to work. Whereas on trash, we could be a lot more liberal about what class abilities we allow to go through on the trash. Other good examples are things like polymorph or banish. Give people a chance to play a different role in a raid setting. So the main reason that trash is there is to pace things. I want to talk about what I consider the 5 major tuning points of trash. Like in my opinion, I've seen lots of these threads on the forums about like, just remove all trash from everywhere, you know, and we're probably not going to do that. If you see one of those threads, it probably means we screwed up on one of these 5 tuning points, and we're open for discussion on these 5. But removing the trash, probably not going to happen. Okay, so the first thing that we have to work with as a tuning point is density. We're referring to basically how many creatures are in an area, what's your creature to boss ratio, or how long it takes to clear to a particular boss. So that's trash density. Let's get some examples. No Bergon, we screwed up. There's just too much trash all over the dungeon. And we want to fix it someday. Hyjal, we had too many waves going, and we've now mellowed it out. There were 12 waves, now there's 8. So Hyjal's getting mellowed out in regards to that. Karazhan Library, especially in the early days, is a lot of trash in the Karazhan Library. Skolamance version 1.0. I think we have more trash in that dungeon than we had in the entire game at the time. And then there's Shadow Labs. That's the one that I did too, so I feel really like extra bad about that. But we removed pulls in 2.1, so hopefully made it a little bit better. Coil Fang Underbog, that hallway in particular, just torture, especially on Heroic. I guess I shouldn't call it torture like here at Blizzcon, but the other thing, the other tuning point on trash is kill time. Like, how long does it take to actually take that creature and make it dead? And many different things can contribute to like long kill times on trash. Number 1 is it has too many hit points. Number 2 is it has some form of disruptive spell, like something like Intimidating Shout, or it can cast a slow on your melee. And number 3 is it's just straight up immune to certain abilities. That's going to make it take longer to kill. So let's go through some examples. The Defias Miner. This guy, I know you're like, why the Defias Miner? The Defias Miner was originally a elite mob and took forever to kill. You can imagine that the 5-hour Dead Mines runs were just getting really old. So we reduced that guy's hit points a whole bunch. Fellow Overseers, they have too many hit points, and they do disruptive abilities, and they cause a lot of chaos, so they take too long to kill. The Greyheart Technicians, when we first put them in Serpent Shrine, they were supposed to be AE mobs, but they didn't get their hit points tuned correctly, so they were never AE-able. So we fixed that. And then the Mana Feeders. If you're going to Karazhan with a raid that has like no melee to it, it's pretty interesting. It's time to get your staff skill up on those. It can take a long time. And then the Bog Lords in Serpent Shrine Cavern, some of the most despised trash we've ever put in the game. Alright, so coming up, point number 3 is the difficulty of the trash. And what this means is straight up that the trash is going to kill you. Most of our trash is not designed to completely eradicate groups or raids. That happens sometimes due to player error, and sometimes to designer error when we overtune the stuff, but our real goal on trash is not to wipe you out repeatedly. So you can see there's some points on trash that's too difficult. Basically, it shouldn't require a big discussion by the raid leader before a pull of like, okay, you know, everybody pull up